Welcome to Northwest Fencing Center's fencing series on YouTube. This is Coach Michael McTigue here with you today and another Armory installment. Today we're going to be talking about the care and feeding of your epee. We spend so much time working out and making ourselves better and better at the fencing itself, but we really need to have our tools in good shape. And epeists have a lot of little things in their weapon that they need to pay attention to. It doesn't apply in other weapons. Just like when we talked about taking care of your foil, we are going to be doing things with a daily check that we do each time we work out, a weekly check that we're going to do that's a little more thorough, and then a monthly check over that's going to include cleaning the tip of the weapon. These also will break out into competition, between bouts checks and between Blues and DEs checks and a pre-competition check that you would do. So, we have an epee. And what we want to do on our daily basis, we take it out of the locker, we're getting ready to fence, and we want to give it just sort of a general looking over. First thing, do I have 2 tip screws? If I don't have 2 tip screws, stop. Don't fence with it, because when the other one falls out, the spring inside will shoot your tip across the room, and you may find it, or you may not. You can maybe find another one somewhere in the armory, and maybe it's better than the one you had. More likely than not, it's all beat up, or you have to go and buy a new one. Save yourself $6. Take a look. Are there 2 tip screws? If there are not, and you have spare weapons and you're in a hurry, put the weapon back, grab a spare, check it, and if it's good, you go ahead and fence. If you don't have a spare with you, stop. Go to the armory, take your kit out of your bag, put another tip screw in. So, obviously, are there tip screws? Is the barrel tight? I'm just going to grab the barrel and I'm going to twist the weapon a little bit. Is the barrel tight? If the barrel's not tight, same thing. Stop. Do not fence with it. If that barrel continues to unscrew, it will break the wires, and now you've got an entire rewire that you have to do on the weapon. Not only is that expensive for getting all the parts together, but it's time consuming if you're doing it yourself, and it's expensive if you're having someone else do it. You can avoid that. If it's loose, you can either put it at your club armory and ask them to tighten it up, or you can tighten it up yourself if you have the right tools. Put it back in your locker, put it back in your bag. Don't fence with it until it's fixed. So we've checked tip screws, we've checked tightness. We take a sight down and make sure that it's nice and straight and it's not bent. We're going to grab the bell guard and the handle, and we're going to give it a little rattle just to make sure that it's tight. If it's a pistol grip, I'm going to make sure it's tight. If it's a French grip, I'm going to do that. With a French grip, I might actually grab the pommel and just give it a snug to make sure that it's okay. And while I'm doing that, I'm also checking my bell guard to make sure that there's no really big dents, and more importantly, that there aren't any little cracks starting in around the rivets. If it has rivets, if you have one of the one-piece ones, you'll just see the cracks starting to radiate out from where the blade attaches. This is really important. If you see any cracks starting, or if the rivets are loose on your bell guard, like you can grab your bell guard and you can wiggle it, even though everything is super tight, you can wiggle it because the rivets here are loose. Where you see those cracks, stop right there. Put a new bell guard on that weapon. If it's not something you can do yourself, put it in the armory. Bring it to a vendor if you're at a competition. Do not keep fencing with that blade. You did a really solid hit on the guard, and the guard is going to break. It's going to come right back onto your hand. Potentially a point could go through the bell guard. I've seen it happen. I've seen it go through the bell guard and into someone's hand. Do not fence with a bell guard that is starting to come apart, because when it does come apart, if your hand is behind it, you're the first one that'll know, and you'll be sorry. So, everything's a general look over. Is it tight? Do I have tip screws? Is everything straight and in good repair? Everything's ready? Whoop, off I go, hook up onto the strip, test my point and bow guard, and we go on, do our fencing. And I want to do that every day for the weapons that I'm using. And I don't want to use the same weapon to practice with every single day either. You've heard me say it many times before. Rotate through your stock so that you're familiar with each weapon. You don't fall in love with one particular one, because when that one breaks, if it's in a competition, you're going to have to go to Epee number 2, and you may not have fenced with it for 6 weeks, and that's not going to be a healthy thing up here, and it may be an issue with point control and other stuff too. So if you've used it all the time, you won't have to worry about making an adjustment. Now, that'll get me through my daily stuff, unless something unexpected happens. Oh, and one more thing I'm going to do with the daily stuff is I'm just going to take a look at the wire. Make sure that it's not popping, all right? So if that wire is popping up, it's coming unglued, that's something where I can go into the Armory, I can bend it, have it bent, and put a dab of super glue on there, or ask the armorer to do it for me, or a friend that maybe has done that. If I haven't, they can give me a hand. If I glue it down right away and don't fence with it until the glue is dry, then I'm fine. If I keep fencing with it popping, it'll pop more and more and more. It'll get hit by another blade, it'll get cut, you'll have a rewire you'll have to do again. All right, so let's recap. Daily, tip screws, tightness, general condition of the bell guard, is the wire down? Boom, go fence. On a weekly basis, especially if I'm training more than 2 or 3 times a week, or I'm having very long training sessions. Maybe I'm only training twice a week, but I'm actually putting in 6 hours plus of training time. I want to do a weekly check. I'm going to do all the things that I just did, but I'm going to add to that checking my weights and shims. Now, I've got my tester right here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my body cord, and I am just going to put it right up against the bell guard and short all 3 pins at the same time. And if I get that on there, then you should see I have all the lights are lit on my blade. That's what's supposed to happen when all 3 pins are shorted at the same time. So I know I've got a good body cord. I'm going to plug it in, and first test is it going off. Yay! I push down on the tip, my light is lit. Again, this particular type of tester that I have lights 2 lights on. When I go off, it lights a second light on the way out. Most of them just have 1 light, they go on, they go off. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my test weight. I'm going to place it on there. I'm going to push it down and let go. Make sure it pushes it off. In the course of a bout at a competition, sometimes the referee will do his testing, push the thing down and make sure it's working, and then he'll stick it up here and make sure it simply doesn't go off. It just holds it up. But when I'm testing my weapons, I like to push it down and let go and make sure that it can push that weight back up. 5 or 6 grams of extra pressure on the pressure spring is not going to make a difference that you will ever notice in fencing between getting and not getting a touch. All right, it's not how strong that spring is, it's how smooth the tip is that makes the difference. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my shims. I'm going to take my small thin shim, and first I'm going to come in from one side and I'm going to push it down. Oh, good, it passes on that side. Then I'm going to rotate my shim to the other side and come in from 180 degrees. And I'm going to do it again. Do not push it down and then spin this around while you're holding it down. You're going to wear out your shims that way. And it's kind of surprising how quickly that'll happen. Put it in, take it out, put it in from the other side, check it again. This is what a referee will do in a bout. They're going to check it from both sides because sometimes the edge of the barrel may wear and you will pass on one side and you won't on the other. So I've done that. Next thing I'm going to do is get my thick shim, and the thick shim simply has to fit in there, right? I don't have to push down on anything. So I'm just going to slide it in. I'm going to try it from the other side. Make sure it just fits all the way around. If it doesn't fit, it's usually because you've had a little burr or an edge come up on the barrel from use, or on the tip, or it may be that you have just happen to have a tip and a barrel and a set of screws that are conspiring together with their little tiny bits of manufacturing tolerances to add up to the point where you can't get the tip in. In that case, what I would do is I would take it out, I'd grab another tip and put it in and see if that would work instead. So, and that's something that's really more likely to happen if you've kind of mixed and matched. You have a Leon Paul barrel and a German tip and a set of Neps springs, or Neps screws, and you've got like 3 different manufacturers going on at the same time. That's going to be more likely the time when you find that a thick shim won't actually fit. So I've run that through that set of tests. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bend the blade like I was making a hit, bend it back the other way, check around with the handle and everything, and make sure that I'm not getting any lights lit. Now I'm going to imitate something here with my tips. I'm going to short the barrel to the blade. And you'll notice that when I push down, now I get both lights go on. If that happens when I'm testing and both lights go on, that means that I've got a short. All right, somewhere in the A and B, I've got a short where I push down on this and both those lights go off. That's something that's going to require more thorough troubleshooting. Have I got a couple of wires crossed inside the tip? Have I got a bare wire or something where it comes through the bell guard? Have I got a scrape spot here that's shorting to the blade? Whatever it is, I want to try and find that, or put it in the Armory and ask my club armorer to take a thorough look at it for me. Tell them that I'm getting a short when I score a touch. If you're fencing on the strip and you have some machines will allow you to keep fencing and you won't notice that this is happening. Others will have a little grounding light will go off up on the scoring thing when you touch. And other ones is you'll flat out hit somebody and it won't go off. All right, it depends on how old the machine is and the manufacturer. But if you discover that during your testing, that's not a blade that you should practice with. It may be something that you can fix without going through an entire rewiring process. It's definitely not something you want to compete with, because if you are competing with it, you go out on the strip and it has that shorting light go off, you're going to have the weapon confiscated and you're going to get a yellow card. If you may, worst case scenario, be fencing and actually hit someone and the light doesn't go off, or you get to go test and the referee goes to test and it doesn't go off, and you wind up with a card or you wind up losing a touch. So if you see that second light come off, that means you've got a short and you have a major league job of troubleshooting to find out where that is and how to fix it. Usually that kind of problem is beyond the normal Epee fencers problems, that people that don't do their own rewiring and stuff are not going to be able to deal with that. They're just going to have to ask their club armorer or a vendor if they're at a competition or something to please take a look at this for me. So I've tested all of that stuff, and if it's passing and everything looks good and I've done all my weekly stuff and I add to it this checking of the shims and scoring lights, and everything feels smooth, it doesn't feel crunchy as we say, then that's my weekly check. I'm good to go. I might take my tip screwdriver and pop it in there and just make sure things are tight. And I might look at my tip screws. If they're looking a little beat up, I might take one out and put a new one in to replace it. But that's really all I need to do on a weekly basis. If I do that regularly, I know everything's nice. Now, once a month, I'm going to do all of these same things, but I'm going to add to it. I am going to test my blade, and then I am going to clean it. I'm going to clean the tip. This crunchy feeling in the tip is usually just a buildup of dirt and lint and stuff over time that's kind of gotten stuck in there, and it's making my tip catch and drag as it's going up and down. And this is the sort of thing that really will make it much harder for you to score a touch. A really crunchy tip that doesn't travel smoothly not only has to overcome the 750 grams of the pressure spring, but it has to overcome the friction that's been added in there because of the dirt and the wear and tear. So I've got all of my stuff handy, and I'm going to use my trick that we learned during the foil thing, where I'm going to put a roll of tape, or if I'm in a competition, I'm going to use a sneaker if I have to take this out, and I'm going to pop my bell guard in there, and it allows me to not have this rolling around. And I'm going to be able to place this somewhere where, yay, I can work on my tip. And I'm going to put my toolkit over here, and I'm going to take my shim stuff out of the way. Now I have spare parts. I'm going to put them over here with my toolkit out of the way, but I've got contact springs, I've got pressure springs, and I've got tip screws. Put those over here because I may need those. And I'm also going to take a little cloth, and I'm going to lay the cloth out. Does that look better here or here? It's just fine. I'm going to put that out because I want to be able to not have stuff rolling around. I want to be able to see what's going on. So I'm going to put my tip screwdriver in. I happen to have NEPS screws in here. You can go to any of the fencing suppliers' sites and you can look at tip screws and you can see what NEPS screws are. They work in Leon Paul blades, they work in German points. They also work in Italian points if you're one of the people that has those. And if you're going to the point where you're using Italian points, you probably are at the more advanced stage. So I'm going to take my two screws out. You notice when I took the second screw out, I made sure that I had my finger over the end so that when the second screw didn't come out, my tip didn't go flying off camera out into the wild beyond. I got my tip screws, I've got my tip itself out. I am going to take the pressure spring out. And now I've got my empty barrel. I need a Q-tip and some rubbing alcohol. Lots and lots of people will think that there's other stuff that they can clean tips with. I've seen people use nail polish remover. I've seen people say, oh, I should use acetone. You want to use something gentle like rubbing alcohol. It's not going to attack the plastic or the super glue or anything that you've got in here. It's simply going to help dissolve and clean out the stuff. Now I've got this just gently damp. I'm going to stick it in there. I'm going to spin it around, and ooh, look at that. Okay, and I'm going to stick the clean end in and give that a little quick wipe. And it still looks a little dirty, so I'm going to grab a second Q-tip and do that again. I specifically grabbed this weapon because I knew it hadn't been touched in a while. So I'm going there, I'm going to clean it again. Oh, this time it looks much better. And that's nice and clean, so I know that I've got a nice clean tip. Barrel, rather. Then I'm going to take the tip. It's going to be a little hard to see. gonna lit up there, and I'm going to rub the tip. And I'm just gonna rub the sides of the tip. And this is nice because I can see it, you know, I can see if it's clean or not. And I'm just gonna go all the way around. And I'm being very careful with the contact spring, not to push down on it. And I get it nice and clean, and then I go over it with the dry end just to give it a little polish, make sure everything's good. And that looks all nice and clean, so that's ready to go. I'm going to do the same thing with the contact spring, or the pressure spring. This big pressure spring. I'm just going to make sure I've got it cleaned off too. So my pressure spring is nice and clean, my tip is nice and clean. I can give my tip screws a little rub too, make sure they're clean. And I'm all set. I can set that aside, put the cap back on so I don't spill it. And now I know that this is all clean. I'm going to check my shims, or my thin shims. And I'm going to do it without the heavy pressure spring. I'm just going to slide the piece itself in the tip. And my tester back where I can see it, and I can see I'm getting a good thing. I'm going to get my shim out. I'm simply going to put it in there, and I'm going to make sure that it's not going off. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to just the weight of it. If it's nice and clean, just the weight of the tip should bring it down and make it go off. And I can get up nice and close, and I can look at how thick is that gap. When I put the shim in, it doesn't go off. And what I want to see is that this tip has gone off just past this travel where this is. Right? I don't want to see it almost resting on the bottom. Now it's a very small gap we're talking about. This is 0.5 millimeters, so it's a very small amount. So I want to see it drop to like 0.4 or 0.3. I should be able to see some daylight in there. If at this point it's right at the bottom, or I have to push on it a little bit in order to get it to go off, then my contact spring is too short. And there's nothing I can do about that. I can't unscrew this off of the little stud on the end. I simply have to pull it off, get a new one, screw a new one on. As I twist the new one on, I'm going to keep checking, and when I start to get close, I'm only going to turn it maybe an eighth of a turn or a quarter of a turn at a time until I get right to the spot where I want to, where it goes off just past the 0.5 millimeter thin shim. This one I'm pretty happy with, looks pretty good. So I'm going to put my fat screw back in, or fat spring back in. I'm going to check it before I put it on. Yep, the light's going on and off, so that's good. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to get my tip screw on my screwdriver, whether it's a NWFC screwdriver or a magnetic screwdriver. I'm going to hold. It's a little hard to see what I'm doing, but I'm basically holding this tip in with one hand while I put the screw in with the other. See if I can angle this around so you can see what's going on here. There, I can do it this way with my thumb, which is not how I usually do it, but you can now see I'm holding it in with one hand. I'm putting that screw in with the other. And I'm tightening them down snug, but I'm not cranking on those screws. These are little tiny screws. I want to make sure that they're tight, but I don't want them to be stripped. And it's easy to strip that screw. And if you do, you may have trouble getting it out and replaced, or worse yet, you may have stripped the threads in the tip itself and you can't use that tip anymore. And now that I've got that one in, my tip ball stays together. And I put in my second tip screw. Make sure That's nice and tight. And now, I'm going to feel that tip. Ooh, that's nice and smooth. That's not at all crunchy. I'm going to check my shims. Boom, boom. I didn't change any screws or anything, so my fat shim should still work, and it does. And I'm going to check with my weights. Now, if my weight hadn't passed, I would simply put in a new pressure spring. Throw the old one out, don't save it, don't try and stretch it, just pitch it and get another one. I mean, these things cost 30 cents a piece, something like that. You can afford to toss one out, I hope. So, now I've got a nice, clean tip, passes shims, passes weights. I've examined the blade the same as I would have before. Wiring is in good shape, it's nice and tight, the bell guard doesn't have any cracks or issues. The weapon's tight. It's not bent any funny or anything. And everything's in good shape, and I am ready to go. Now, this is exactly what I would be doing before a competition with all my weapons. If I'm getting ready to go to a competition this next weekend, then whenever my last training is, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday afternoon, I'm going to sit down with all my weapons, all my body cords, and I'm going to check them all out. This is the pre-competition check. I'm going to check them all out. I'm going to clean the tips. I'm going to check the shims and the weights. I'm going to make sure that all my tips are going off just right. They're nice and smooth. They haven't got bad springs in them. There's no little issues that I have to deal with. If I am the sort of fencer that is going to need help with this, I am not going to do this check Friday night, because if I discover something that I'm not able to fix, no one else has the time to fix it either. Your club armorer may not even be there on that Friday, and you have to fence the next day. So, if you are going to need help, you need someone to adjust the tips for you. It's not something you're comfortable doing yourself. Or you if you discover another issue like a popped wire or a cracked bell guard, and that's something that you're going to need help with, then you want to do your pre-competition check earlier in the week. You want to do your cleaning and your thorough checking earlier in the week. Do it on Wednesday, so that you have Thursday and Friday to get help replacing that cracked bell guard, or gluing down that wire, or rewiring a weapon that might need it because you've discovered there's a short. So plan ahead. It makes life so much easier. Recap. Daily basis. A visual check to make sure everything is fine. No popped wires. No cracked bell guards. No loose barrels. No missing tip screws. Everything shipshape. Go fence. Weekly. Take a moment, run through and check with your shims and make sure everything is fine. Pre-competition or monthly, I'm going to do all of those things, plus I'm going to take the tip apart and clean them. And at a competition, in between bouts, and again, my students have heard me say this all the time. When I'm fencing, I'm just fencing in my workouts. We're doing level up, or we're doing drills, and we get to the end of the thing and we go to rotate to another person to drill with. Quick check. Have I got tip screws? I'm checking each time. At the end of each bout, I'm just checking. If I got tip screws, I'm just going to basically do that quick daily check. Is everything good? Whoop, yep, we're ready to roll. That way I don't get surprised. I don't wind up going, hey, how come my blade didn't go off? And then looking up and noticing that there's no tip in the barrel. Because I didn't check my tip screws, second one fell out, boom, it's gone. Alright, and then once a month, every 3 weeks, depending on usage, I'm going to clean out the tip as well, just to keep it smooth, keep it from wearing out. It'll also mean that I'll be able to see if there's a problem with tip screws getting beat up, something of that sort. Sometimes the little channel that the tip screws ride in, gets all beat up from our whacking bell guards and parrying and beating on blades, and it may cause a real chunk sort of thing where the tip screw is actually dragging on that slot, and that may be causing you an issue with not getting touches as easily as before. That's something where usually you want to ask for an armorer's help, but usually that groove can be smoothed back out when the blade is taken apart and made smooth again. It's not something that happens a lot, but it's also not exactly rare either. So, lastly, some people like to lubricate the tip of the weapon. They find different ways of doing it. They'll spray a little WD-40 in there. They will try to put a little pencil graphite on the side of the barrel. If you are using lubricant on your tips, first of all, I would say don't. Maybe at a competition situation you could use something, but there's lots of stuff out there that's way better than WD-40. WD-40 was made to displace moisture and stay there, and consequently it's staying there. It attracts dust and dirt and everything. If you're using WD-40, then you got to be cleaning your tips once a week because they're going to be a mess. If you're using the graphite and you use too much of it, it gets down into the springs and whatnot, and it can actually not exactly insulate, but it can increase the resistance, and it may affect your ability to get a touch. If you really want to do that, then talk to your club armorer, shoot me an email. There are dry film nano lubricants and things that lubricate, and the carrier dries off, so there's nothing there to attract dust. But if you have a tip that's clean and in good shape and ready to go, you're not going to make a significant difference to it by adding in a ton of lubricant. Maybe a tiny difference. Maybe there's one touch out of 6 bouts that you'll get that you didn't, and it might be worth it, but generally speaking, on a day-to-day basis, I wouldn't do it. So, check your weapon regularly. Make sure it's in good shape. Make sure that you're not missing tip screws. You haven't got a safety issue with a cracking bell guard. You don't feel any rattling that might be a loose tip or something of that sort. Keep on top of it. Follow a daily, weekly, and monthly schedule of maintaining the blade. Just like we were saying with foil, if I'm doing this stuff ahead of time, I'm maintaining it, I'm not being surprised. If I'm waiting for things to break and then I'm repairing them, that's not maintenance, that's reacting to a problem that I probably could have stayed ahead of, or maybe even prevented from happening altogether. So, maintain your weapons, that way you won't have to fix them very often. You'll have reliable stuff, and you'll have one less thing on your mind when you're out there on the strip competing. Take care of yourselves, take care of your weapons. We will see you next time.